Lab C, WMI, and CIM review. As always, the purpose of this nugget is to review the lab items, and the assumption is that you've taken some time to download the lab document and tried to complete the lab items on your own. What I'm going to show you are just sample solutions. They're not necessarily the only correct answers. All right, our first assignment is to write a command that uses WMI to retrieve all instances of Win32 logical disk that represent fixed local disks. All right, so I can do this one in version 2 of PowerShell. Get WMI object. I'm kind of assuming that because I gave you the class Win32 logical disk that you were comfortable not having to look that up or anything else. But I'm just going to start by getting the entire class. Win32 logical disk. Now I would have to figure out how I could differentiate between a floppy drive or an optical drive and a fixed local disk. And if you remember from the previous nuggets, it's the drive type property, and the value 3 tells me it's a fixed local disk. If you didn't know that, if you needed to look that up, you would need to go Google or Bing Win32 logical disk, read the documentation. So anyway, having done that, you've got a couple of ways you could choose to do the filtering. If you're doing it the purely PowerShell way, it might look like this. And that'll do it for you. That's not a great approach. You're not moving the filtering as close to the beginning of the command line as possible. It would make far more sense and be a far better practice to do it this way. Now I want to point something out real quick. You'll notice that whenever I've done these filters with WMI, I typically put the filter itself in double quotation marks. Now, that actually gives me a couple of advantages. It means I can stick variables in there, so I can insert values into there without having to do string concatenation, because, as you know in PowerShell, the contents of a variable will replace the variable inside double quotes. The double quotes actually have a really practical purpose too, because string values in a WMI filter need to be single quote delimited. So let's just do this one real quick. There we go, drive type 3. Let's say I wanted to filter on the device ID instead. That's a string, so that needs to go in single quotes. By having the entire filter in double quotes, it lets me use single quotes within, and they're just treated as literals, so I get what I want. Look what happens if I tried to do that this way. If I tried to use single quotes around it, I can't use double quotes because WMI doesn't like double quotes. Well, it'll take them in a lot of instances. If you were writing out a full query, it wouldn't work properly. But more importantly, I can't use single quotes here. All right, you see how that messes up sort of it's going to see this as a string, and it's going to see that as a string, and it's not going to know what that stuff in the middle is all about. Just gotten myself in the habit of using single quotes around the entire thing. So there we go. Now the next lab assignment was to write a command that uses CIM. So I needed to switch over to my Windows 8 computer, which is where I have PowerShell 3 installed. You could do this on PowerShell 3 or later. Just remember that the CIM commands only come with PowerShell 3 and later. So I'm retrieving all instances of Win32 process. I'm supposed to do this from 2 remote computers and ensure that the computer's names appear in the final output. Well, let's just see what the output includes by default. Get CIM instance class Win32. I think I was supposed to do 2 computers with the previous lab assignment too. It's just a matter of adding the computer name. So we'll do we'll do this computer, and we'll do my DC. And it looks as if the computer name is already going to be present in the output in a PS computer name column. So that's gonna, I don't have any criteria here, right? It's just, yep, just from the 2 computers, and ensure that the computer names appear in the output. So there we go. All right, our next assignment still uses CIM, so I'm going to stay here in PowerShell version 3, and I'm supposed to connect to a computer that does allow the older WMI protocol, but does not have remoting enabled. Now, if you don't have a computer that doesn't have remoting enabled, that's fine. All we're saying here is avoid using remoting. I want you to connect using the CIM commands, but using the older protocol. Now, the way to do that is to do a new, or rather a get CIM instance, And instead of giving the command a computer name, give it a session that's already been established using the DCOM protocol. So I'm going to do this with my Windows 7 computer. I am going to create a variable, Win7. I'll use that to store the new CIM session. And we're going to give it the computer name. And then we need to give it a session option. So in parentheses, I'll create a new CIM session option object. Tell it to use the protocol DCOM. So this should create a new connection to Windows 7 over the older protocol. And it might take it a few seconds because of the funky way I've got DNS and everything set up here in my lab. Okay, well, no error message is good news. Let's see what's in Win7. Good, so I have a DCOM protocol connection. Now let's try to do a get CIM instance class. And what are we getting here? Win32NT. Nice part about the CIM commands, tab completion. And we're going to give it our existing CIM session. And that should run pretty quickly since the session is already up and running. And so that's how to do that. Now that's essentially the same as running get WMI object. And in fact, task number 4 is asking us to complete this same task using get WMI object. So this time we'll use get WMI object. We'll give it the class NT event, no tab completion for you. This is also saying to only retrieve the application event log. Okay, so we'll do a little filter. And we'll say, what's the property? Log file name equals application. And we're supposed to back that up to the local computer and then clear the log. So we'll get to that in just a sec. Let's see if this is going to run first. Good. So we got it back. There are records in there, so there is something to back up. So, okay, let's go ahead and we'll pull the command up again. But this time we're going to pipe it to get member. Because I need to find the method name that will let me back this thing up. Okay, big output. Let's scroll back up to the methods. Backup event log. Now, I see this is getting wrapped. It would show me here what it's going to accept for its arguments, but I'm thinking I may have to look this up online. All right, let's go ahead and do that. Win32 NT event log file. Let's give Bing a second to come back up and see if I can find out what sort of arguments that backup, what is the method name I'm after? Backup event log. Okay, so here's the main documentation for its methods. See if we can get over to that MSDN page. Oop, there it goes. And backup event log. Backup event log method. Oh, okay, it only takes one thing, an archive file name. Perfect. So that means I should just be able to repeat the same command, send it off to invoke WMI method, give it the argument, and hope for the best. So we'll pipe it to invoke WMI method. Method name is backup event log. And the argument is I'm just going to give it a local path. And we'll sit back and wait. Okay, well, a return value of 0 is good news, so that means it probably worked. Let's just get a quick directory listing, see if we have that file. Where did I say I just put that? cbackup.evt, not seeing it there. And you know what the other thing I didn't do? It just occurred to me. I didn't clear this thing either. So let's do this instead, because if I recall, that clear event log takes the same. Oh, you know what? That's going to be backing it up to the local computer, not to me. Let's run clear event log. Now see, that's going to overwrite backup.evt, which, no, I didn't clear it before. So the events should still have been in the log from the previous backup. This should back them up and clear the log. So we'll test both of those things in just a second. Ooh, and we got an error message. Let's see, I've got this up on my other computer. So I'm just going to look at the clear event log method real fast and see. This is saying privilege missing. So that means I should be able to, actually I should be able to do this right here at the end. Enable all privileges. I'm going to hit enter. Oops. Gets me into a wrong class because wrong parameter set. That's got to go up here when I retrieve the class. Make that connection. Enable all privileges. I'm going to let that run. I'm going to switch over to my Windows 7 computer. That's the one we're actually hitting. So let's just see if this actually did anything. There's my backup.evt, and it does contain stuff, so that worked. Now just as a check, because I'm local, we'll just use get event log to check the application log, and it's empty. So it actually did clear it out as well as back it up. So there we go. Hopefully you didn't have too much trouble accomplishing those. That fourth one where you start getting into methods definitely gets a little bit trickier, but it's good stuff to know how to do, and hopefully you were able to get yourself at least part of the way through that lab. So that's our quick review. Keep in mind, as always, just because you got a slightly different answer doesn't mean you were wrong. That's why I call these sample solutions and not answers. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.